Call to order. The WebEx has started. Welcome, everyone. Before we go through the agenda, why don't we read our minutes from last week?
Oh, my lights went out.
Are there any edits or any comments from last month's meeting minutes? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
The first to raise the motion. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Terrific.
Seconded, I didn't recognize.
It was Andrew. Andrew second, Peter first. Peter
Thank you.
second. So welcome, everybody. This is our first meeting officially with our new director and town librarian. So I'd like to officially welcome Scott Strozonbeck to Fairfield Public Library. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Round of applause, everybody. We're very excited to have you here after a long search. We are thrilled to have you part of our organization and to be aboard also working with you and the staff. So, you know, it's just been an excellent search. And I think that I had told you and maybe even Jan recently that when we started the search, you are our first candidate in all the candidates that we had interviewed. And I had told our steering committee, I think we found our new director. So funny how things work out, but we're thrilled to have you here with us today. It's always nice to hear. We're also thrilled to be here in person. We've got a hybrid, and you know, it's great to be here in person, also with WebEx and using the OWL technology, which is working, which is really exciting. We'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the meeting today. I don't have anything formal to present for the chairman's report. I did want to welcome Scott officially here. Two quick things. Scott and I are starting to develop some cadence, so we're meeting monthly the week before these meetings, from board chairman to town librarian, to really compare notes. So we had a chance to meet for an hour, talk about a number of things. And that meeting, we're going to try and meet on Wednesdays before, so we can inform the agenda. The agenda is, you know, fairly, you know, standard from what we've had before. You will notice that the agenda has a slightly different format. Jen Carpenter sent this out last week, so we just got a slightly different. It's got Roman numerals, maybe a few other minor areas here with WebEx and dial-in. But that meeting for Scott and myself is meant to really compare notes and help us inform that agenda and clear out any sort of open items, and also have free discussion. The second thing is I started to use the study rooms. So I went, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I'm actually reserved for one tomorrow. So I'd like to really put out a note for how great the study rooms are. Tell your friends. It's an easy sign-up process. The rooms are beautiful. They're really, really terrific. An excellent investment And as we start to develop our, outreach to the town with our budget and everything that we go through and even our end of the year, what we should also be doing is encouraging members of the town to come in, look at the study room. So that'll be a big part of what we'd like to do in terms of a tour. More of that to follow as we put some of those plans together. But those study rooms are terrific. And as a user, it's really great to be able to use them. So those are really sort of my opening remarks for the chairman's report. Oh, Lori, I did want to say that the attendees here, Chris Rogers does have another excused absence. He was out of town, so you can mark him as excused. I did not hear back from Chris, so he would be unexcused for tonight. The rest of the board is here virtually and in person.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so let's move on to old business. We'll start with the COVID-19 update. Dan Fisher.
Okay, unfortunately, it still is current business, even though it's old business.
Correct.
We have started indoor programming for children, which is great. Been very successful. We have teen programs indoor. It's going well. Things seem to have a lower attendance than they did pre-COVID, but that's okay. The children's room, finally, some more space is going to be opening up in there. Having talked to the public health director and gone over it, Scott and Tamara and I, going to open a little more space in the children's room, and that will be at the beginning of December. So because of the way it's closed off now, they're going to need some time to reorganize it and get it all opened up. So they're going to have to be closed next week. Just the children's department at the main library for 3 days. So we've given notice to the public that will be happening.
That's terrific. And the farm is still closed.
The farm will remain closed until we kind of reassess the situation, see how well used the space is. Some things that we want conversation with the town about in terms of air filtration. So the farm will remain closed with the castle train open up.
Great. Excellent. And Jan, just quick clarification to confirm, the hours that are approved by the town, bringing back to regular hours or more regular hours, starting January 1st, is that correct? Monday
We
through
have the
Friday?
funding for, yeah,
Okay.
hire some more people, but
How many positions or how many hours are needed to fill those additional hours?
it varies
Okay.
from departments.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
We're preparing
sure.
ads for town to put on the
Okay.
town website. It's the only way that people can apply is if there's a position on a town website.
Right. Right. Terrific. Wonderful. Anything else in terms of that COVID update?
Status quo.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move on to the Woods Branch update. Nancy Sweeney.
Segueing from study rooms, just like now, we have the keys that you check out, and we are going to be reopening our main study room. Just like me, the play area at Woods is also going to be opening. Not sure, but as well. So taking this time to go through stuff we have in our basement and expand. Last, our electrical outlet.
I think some of us do not hear Nancy speaking.
Okay, I'm far enough away. I'll take off my.
Yes.
So I said the play areas at Woods will also be opening at the same time. And our study room, the third one will be opening tomorrow, the one on the main floor. And we have the key system just like down here. And then lastly, the electrical outlet that goes with our new computer table that allows you to plug in a USB and or electrical is now complete. So people can now sit at the carousels or corrals and either use a laptop, or if they're on one of the computers, they can put a USB in. Electrical outlet.
Turn up the speakers here a little bit on the OWL system.
The owl was like staring at me. And I'm like, yes, good God. It's cute, but it's kind of unnerving.
So Christine and Jill, if you can see, and Peter, the OWL system is in the middle of the room. And you're seeing a 360-degree view. It's a really cool device. This is on loan from the police department. We are going to be ordering a new one here for the library. But the audio and video are really, really top-notch. Very, very cool.
Did you hear me that time? Did you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Nancy, I had a quick question for you. In regards to the Woods branch, has the basement been off limits? Has that been closed because of COVID? Like,
No.
It is open.
Yeah, the down under is open,
The
but we
down
have
under.
that whole storage area in the back that we have a
Right.
lot of craft supplies and old furniture.
Okay,
So now that the playroom is going to be coming back, there's a lot of stuff that will be, can just take reassessment of what's in the basement and not in the areas that are open to the public. The 2 study rooms have been open and the down under.
sure.
Those are the only areas that are open to the public
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Nancy, is that room you're talking about? Is that where we used to have meetings, in-person meetings? Is that the room, Shan, that Nancy's talking about?
The room right now is kind of a catch-all for our furniture that we had out of commission, and we're slowly bringing some back, but it also has very poor air quality in there, so we're not using it for anything.
So, I'm sure you've toured that area. We have, through our calendar of meetings, we've met in the Woods branch a few times in some of those rooms. But of course, because of air quality and the pandemic, that does not make sense. This is a great room in the Rotary Room for in-person. So it's good to be back in person. I know this is sort of the first time we're really getting back to this. But we still offer flexibility until this thing is completely, flattened out, for always having a WebEx dial-in with the OWL, whatever people are comfortable with, we want to provide that. If you've got, issues at home, whatever personal preference, we're going to offer, a hybrid. Nancy, thanks so much for your update on Woods. Good to hear the progress that's going on in town. Okay, so we're going to move on to space planning with Andrew and others, if there are other contributions from people on that committee.
Yeah, Chris and I connected actually earlier today. One of the things moving forward.
Please feel free to take a mask off your talking.
Yeah. Chris and I actually connected earlier today. I think based on the conversation we had last session, we're ordering the, 1B, if you will, or the phased phase 2. One thing we just want to make sure, Jan, I think next time we talk, was we had put together before, we were building out the plan to determine how much we needed to draw down for the furniture, is get a better picture of where we are in terms of what's been invoiced, what's been paid, so just circle back on that, because that's kind of the connection between the financial portion of everything, that we have the funds in that we need, if we need to do additional drawdowns, if we're keeping on top of that. With that, we will be want to restart for me. But with that, we will have then just a small phase 3, which we think we can probably do place the order once we get phase 2 orders in Jan. I think Jan, what we talking about? That'd be February timing that they'd probably arrive. That stuff would probably arrive.
Well, not ordered quite yet. We've been
Okay.
working on getting, finalizing exactly what products we're getting, because that mezzanine hadn't been part of the original plan fully scoped out. So I got back today the sheet with all the pieces on it and the total amounts, which is a little bit more what we talked about last
Okay.
month, but we need to go through that, make sure that it's correct, and then, go forward with the order. So,
Okay. Do you recall how much, what the number was on that one?
well, it was 104, but then she wrote back to me and said that there was already something that she caught that wasn't exactly right, so I don't really want to,
Okay,
say for sure.
it's not, that's pretty close to actually where that's 10,000, 11,000 more, which is,
It's nothing.
maybe we're talking about $250,000 here, so percentage wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, we're not gonna skip
Yeah,
on
once-
getting
once-
wheels or something because we
This
can't afford
scale
it.
of scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can send that over to me,
But we want to make sure that we're getting the.
absolutely.
This is what we want.
I'll just map that into the,
And we did hold back, about 10% on the furniture, the payment, the invoice for the main furniture, because there were a few pieces that were damaged and they're, in the process of being replaced.
Yep.
So I had, Chris had signed the check for the full thing, and then when I talked to Deanna, the designer, she said, we'll hold back 10%, so I rewrote the check, but now we have no one to sign it. Scott has filled out the paperwork for it to be a, check
very good.
moving forward.
The only other, and I forgot, this is something that came up later in our conversation. For the rooms, yeah.
Study rooms? Yes,
Okay, so that's been good.
yeah,
I thought so. I didn't see it on the checks, which was why I wanted to ask the question.
well, it was a few months ago,
Was it?
yeah.
I thought we weren't paying until we had until it was finalized by maybe that was 2 months. Maybe it would have been on last month's checks. Sorry.
I had printed out all of the
So, yeah, Jan, what we'll do is-
expenditures on that, but it must be sitting on my desk, because I don't see there.
No, we'll do, I think that's part of that's the kind of thing that when I was talking about with Chris, we can go through just that summary that we put together before. So that we're all aligned and what we started with, where we are now.
Yeah, I haven't input anything into the Google Drive, that was something that Helene had been doing, and I just haven't had time.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll find time to do it. So, other than that, not much to update on.
On your last part there, with regards to sort of the invoices in, out, and, just getting a good sense of, where we're trending. We'll be introducing the topic around QuickBooks. We'll come back to that. Scott and I had a chance to talk about how the board is managing our drawdown money and then all of our expenditure. So I think Scott's got some great experience. We'll bring it up in new business, but we'll want to come back because I think it could make life a lot easier for all the things we're doing. Because we've got lots of documents, paper, everything. It'll help to bring it all together. We'll come back to that. Andrew and Jan, thank you very much. Anything else on it?
Scott, have you gotten access to the Google Drive that we have?
Jane gave me access.
Yeah,
You did great.
Good,
I'll
yeah.
take a dive in.
That's something we should at some point talk about. And as I was going through it with Chris, we we're trying to figure out where everything was.
Yeah,
We could probably adjust some things. Let's just be right there.
I plan to take a look at it this week.
Yeah, no rush on it. It's just more of, I want to make sure you have access to that. Some stuff that we've referenced in some of these meetings before.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and with regards to Google Drive, if you all feel, Scott, certainly welcome some of your guidance. If there are too many subfolders, we could certainly kind of tighten it up.
Yeah.
We've only been using the Google Drive for about a year now. Is that
Yeah,
it?
it's not long.
Not long. I mean, before we basically had documents just through email. So
Yeah.
let's, get to, modern day and use a cloud storage platform. Google Drive, it's easy.
Yep.
But it's great because it's helped us with space planning, with sourcing for candidates, it's helping us with our expenditure, capital drawdown. We don't house lots of, sensitive documents like budget, finance, endowment, but it is helpful for planning purposes. And just a good central point for, all the things we're doing. It's great. I'm glad you got that. I had that on my list from last week, so thank you for helping Scott that. All right, Andrew, thank you very much. Anything else on space planning?
Nope.
Okay, very good. We're gonna move on to now titled the Strategic plan and operations report. Scott is going to cover that, and I apologize, I misspelled your name even when I resubmitted the agenda. So it is Jarzambek, B-E-K,
BEK.
no C.
Bravo, Echo.
Now I know. Just like I completely like hammered the pronunciation of Andrew's last name. And just to let everyone know, again, it's Andrew Benet. Like the French impressionist, Andrew Benet.
So while we're on this,
Wait a minute. Help me out. Wait a minute.
so I was home, so now that I'm here in person, I'll speak. Plus, it's in the, it's in the minutes, it's right, but in the agenda.
All right, agenda.
So Lori, good job.
Talk to
Oh,
the-
are you talking Nancy? I couldn't hear. It was very fuzzy. Is it Nancy Sweeney? Were you talking about your name being spelled wrong?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that it? Okay, no, I switched it in the minutes last week, last month. Okay, so it's with an EY, right? Sorry, it's impossible. It was really impossible to hear, so, okay,
Here,
thanks.
Ellen. You were correct, Christina. Okay, getting back to the strategic plan and operations report, I present to you Scott Jarzak.
So you'll notice that I do a little bit more of a written report for you ahead of time. I always feel free to look at it. We're gonna hope to have that document done probably the Wednesday before the board meeting. So there's a little bit more of a narrative. We kind of made it so that it's not an Excel spreadsheet. This was a great first week at the library. I'm really grateful to the staff who have been super welcoming and really helpful as I kind of get my feet under me. Jan did the annual report for the State Divisional Library Development, which is no easy task, so some kudos there. We've also lost our administrative assistant, which means that the library administration is taking on a lot of clerical work, and thank you to Jan and Nancy. This includes doing payroll and processing things in Munis, which is not fun. So we're hoping to get this position filled as soon as possible. We've let human resources know that we cannot function the way we're currently functioning, but so just be patient with us, be patient with check cutting. It's a lot of work, and you have a director who hasn't used Munis in 10 years, and is just getting trained in it. So,
Forgot to say, when we got the budget documents, it's time to
oh, and we got the budget documents. Give me a couple more days to process that. So good news is patrons are back in the building. The staff are really happy about it. The patrons are really happy about it. This includes programming, so story times are going on. Mahjong has started. I've already introduced myself to that group. So the building is very lively. The patrons have reacted positively to the new layout and furniture at both locations. It seems very well used. Public is very, very happy about it. And the new study rooms at the main library are in regular use. I walked out. They're in use a lot. Sometimes people leave windows open, but that's getting a little bit better. Just a reminder that the library will be closed on the 25th and 26th for the Thanksgiving holiday. So just a reminder, or if you run into somebody at the mart complaining that we're closed, remind them that it's Thanksgiving holiday. And then the next art show opening is December 9th at 5:30. So we're doing art shows again in the space, and it looks awesome. And they're doing another opening, which I plan to be at as well.
Terrific.
And then I open the floor to any questions, clarifications, or concerns from the board.
Scott, can I ask you a question? It's Christina. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you and see you. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, fantastic. So the admin assistant position, any concerns about HR approving that? Scott or Jan or?
No, we think everything's moving forward as it should.
Okay, fantastic.
Just wanted to be the board. It's funded. I just wanted the board to understand the extra work that the two people on the left and right are really.
Okay. That's great. And then one other thing, the next chapter book club, that sounds fantastic. That is, I don't know if you're going to talk about that at all, but I don't know if it's a new thing. I don't remember hearing about it before, but What an amazing, that just sounds like what a great way of meeting community needs. So thank you for that.
I'm not familiar with the next chapter. What is this club, Christina?
That's
Oh,
in the report.
it was in the report, so I could, it was in the Be a Hub of Lifelong Learning and Enrichment. They just talked about this new, maybe not new, book club, an inclusive community-based book club for teens 16 and up and adults with Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, and other intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, is
So
that
this-
new? Is that a new thing, Jan, or?
This was something that our teen librarian, Jen Laceman, had come across, and she had everyone on staff watch a video about it, which was incredible, just incredible. And so she asked for anyone on staff who wanted to volunteer to participate in this, and she got enough volunteers that she's able to do the book club twice a month. And she had a number of people here for it. It's in person. And it was great. So
That sounds terrific.
something new that is very exciting.
That's awesome. Very nice.
I had a quick question. I'm sorry, following up on your first question, Christina. I noticed we don't post jobs on the library's website itself, right? They have to find that within the town of Fairfield's careers or job opportunities available. Are those posted or advertised anywhere else?
We could post part-time position. I don't see why not. The administrative assistant full-time position has to go through the union first. It has to be posted within the union for 2 weeks. And if there are any applicants at all, pretty much you have to move somebody along. It's pretty hard to go outside of the union unless you have a really good reason. So I don't think that one's gonna need to be posted outside, but we don't know.
Okay, I was just wondering where they advertise it. I mean, I know sites like Indeed and stuff, right? They do searches and they pull all those when somebody does a search. I was just wondering, so you can be open to a bigger pool of people. That's all.
HR does post jobs indeed.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
We are gonna look at our recruitment, because there is a concern, and it's an understandable concern, because libraries across the state are facing it, libraries in the region are facing it, just like private businesses, where it's hard just to hire people. So we are gonna, when we start to do more hiring, give me a couple of weeks, but we are gonna, and Jen and I actually were talking about this. Should put this on my radar before I started, a month before I started. So we're going to talk about recruitment and doing a little bit of recruitment using social media and the website, but I got to figure out how to work Munis first.
Yeah.
And then once I figure out how to use Munis, then we'll talk about
Sure.
next steps in recruitment.
That's good to hear. And Jill, thank you for asking that question, because I think that our website and our newsletter are great mechanisms. Like even just the website, when we put out the opening for a trustee, we got a lot of interest. And, the town website for job positions, not a lot of people would know to go there. And they're not getting like newsletters from the town about these job openings. So once you're getting to that point, I think we could leverage those properties very well.
Yep.
Perfect. I did have one quick thing on the operations. You had mentioned the study rooms. As a user, I did find that the signing up for the study rooms, if you select a few blocks and you have to edit it, it doesn't allow you to edit it. So I wonder what kind of technology there is behind there. The user experience of making a correction on that, it doesn't allow you to make a correction. And you have to start over. You'll notice if you try to do like 3-hour block, you can only do 2-hour. It won't allow you to correct it. It's just a small nit, but it is something that the users will probably find somewhat cumbersome, because then they won't know what to adjust. It's all done in like little,
That myself.
like if you can only choose like 4 cubes, great, but if you somehow misclick,
Meant
you can't correct it.
It was 2:30. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
you-
happened to me.
yeah, so you tried it.
But I thought it was just me, so.
No, yeah. There you go.
That's just,
But I-
we still had trouble with our
I
app.
did,
And
I
said,
did
"Oh, me
correct it
too."
by-
She's like, "So glad
I
it's not
closed
just me."
my tab and then I restarted and then I could do it. But then when I redid it, the study room that I had mistyped was blocked.
Not available.
So I couldn't
because
just
it's in
clear it.
process.
Just small area for improvement.
Jan, you and I both. I felt better when you said, Jan, you had an issue too. I thought it was me, as always.
I don't know if it's resolved yet. There was a problem with our app over the weekend, particularly for iPhone. So it turns out that it's iPhone still. That it worked for most things except if you were trying to search the catalog.
Right. Yeah, it would just crash.
Jim was working on it today and he was asking people to test it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Did it get resolved?
I don't know if it got resolved. I know there was a conversation around it. And there is a newer update. I haven't updated my phone yet. I know there's a new iOS update, so.
Well, I think they dated hers to the highest over the weekend and it worked for her once and then it crashed the second time. Mine worked once today, crashed on Saturday, worked once today. and didn't
Oh my
work,
gosh.
so. But it's being worked on, so.
All right. Thank you.
Resolved.
Excellent. All right. Anything else on the strategic plan operations report? Any questions, comments? Okay, great. We're going to move on to finance and budget with Jan.
So, little bit of pause in our spending right now because we don't have an administrative assistant to put in purchase orders on a regular basis. I'm gonna be doing that, but I haven't had a chance to do any yet. She did put in a bunch of stuff before she left, so there should be a decent amount encumbered. Not enough. Yeah, we're harder on that. We will. Or Scott has some ideas for spending money.
We'll come up with some.
No, we know what most of the money is for, it's just a matter of getting it encumbered.
I think it's getting the town librarian to learn Munis so he can start adding POs and stuff. Really looking forward to it.
Best wishes dealing with the administrative stuff that you're all faced with until the position is filled. You'll get through it.
I had 2 whole days where I was only doing one job.
Wow. Amazing. Okay, Jan, and is there any need for additional money in the checking account? Are you good for the invoices coming up?
Right now, it's good. Yeah, I don't anticipate any big bills coming
Okay.
in, so we're okay. If you look at the revolving fund report, we had that $125,000 transfer. So that covered all the bills for the space planning and there's still a decent amount in there. We also got the 10,000 from the Friends.
Okay, great. Excellent detail as always. Any questions from everyone in regards to budget? Finance? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the treasurer's report now. While Chris Rogers is not able to be here, he did share this afternoon the latest report from Vanguard. So it showed some continual gains this month compared to last month. He and I are meeting with Vanguard in December. I think it's the 3rd or the 7th. So we're going to be meeting with them as a year end and then set up a regular schedule with them through the year. So for next meeting, Chris will be prepared to provide an end of the year report and we'll have some findings from Vanguard from the treasurer. Any questions in regards to the endowment or the treasurer's report?
I do have one thing
Sure.
about this signatories on the checking account.
Yep.
I believe that prior to your taking office, Sona was on the checking account. I don't know if she's been removed, but the chair, I think, has traditionally been a third signer.
Okay. I thought that I was a signer.
believe so. Chris says no, and I don't, the paperwork I have is still says so.
Okay, so I can ask Chris next week when he's back.
I wonder if it's something that you need to, discuss as a board and decide whether you should be a signer. It's not in the bylaws.
I've never had to sign a check, Jan. The only things that I've needed to do were for First County in terms of, like approving, it was not signing the check, it was like depositing funds. And I've also never had to sign anything for Vanguard.
Well, if you were a signatory, you would have signed checks over
Yeah.
the last couple of months. But, if you don't think that it's necessary, then now it's got here.
I don't see any reason for me to be signing any checks.
Okay.
Yeah, as board chair. Scott, have you experienced like having?
No,
any,
usually,
like-
it's usually the treasurer on the board, executive.
Correct, yeah.
Peter's got his hand.
Who does have check signing ability?
It would be the library director and the board treasurer,
And the
So-
board treasurer,
Chris.
Yeah, Chris does.
under the bylaws, or under the, whatever the certificate concerning corporation, where's that located? That authority? Sorry,
No,
did
it's,
you? Did you hear me? I don't know if you heard my question.
we heard you, Jan's looking in the bylaws.
Oh, okay.
And the board chair.
Oh. And maybe something we have to get back.
Yeah, I don't need to have the answer now. I'm just curious.
Peter, it's a good question. Let's look into that to confirm, and we can also confirm with Chris in terms of who is currently on record, because we want to make sure that Scott is now authorized for that. I think that that's already in motion. Is that correct, Jan?
Yes.
Okay, so it should be certainly Scott as director and then Chris as treasurer. To be answered if it would be also the board chair. Right now, I don't have any need to be signing checks, but we can also look into the bylaws to see if there's any detail.
Is there a guideline that states that Scott is able to sign a check up to a certain amount and anything over that amount needs 2 signatures?
No.
Scott, I'm new to the board, so I can, you and I can learn this together.
Peter, I'm new too, so we're learning. In other organizations that I've worked at, it's typical for there to be a purchasing policy that has a limit, what needs to be signed off, and then what needs double signature from a member of the board. So that doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Well, we may want to look into it. I don't know. I mean, it's just a question. Any organization, in any organization I was affiliated with, up to a certain amount of money, the president or the executive director could sign, but after that, it required, let's say anything over $2,500 went to double signatures, sometimes triple signatures, depending.
Well, then we would definitely need.
I don't need the answer today. It's just a question.
It's a great question, Peter. I mean, a lot of similar things like this happen in the business environment. I know that, I have a certain amount that I can approve, but then there are different tiers. So maybe it's something that we should look into some of this information and next month talk about maybe establishing a purchasing policy. We don't currently have one.
I need a policy. I'm gonna tell you, right,
Okay, that sounds like a great idea.
something I.
So Lori, for your notes, we will be looking into the details of who's authorized for signing checks. We'll look into the bylaws for any additional details. And in next month's meeting, we'll add to the agenda the discussion around establishing a purchasing to new business for next month.
There's definitely nothing in the bylaws.
Okay.
Fucking. So Peter, to answer your question, Jan and we're both looking at the bylaws. We're not seeing anything about check signing or checks at all. So purchasing policy might be something for this board to take on in the future.
And should go into the bylaws. If we have the authority to modify our own bylaws, or does that require approval by the town?
I don't believe so, but that would be a good question.
Yeah, I think that, Peter, that we have the ability to update our bylaws as a board, as part of Fairfield Public Library. And those bylaws are not something that's written into the town charter. Town charter is something totally different. That would require, another motion, which we're also in process with, but the bylaws, I believe that we have the ability to adjust, and could be something that we want to read. When was the last time those bylaws were?
2012.
2012. So,
This time to-
maybe as part of that discussion next week is that we're discussing the purchasing policy and looking at updating our bylaws.
Yeah, I mean, as fiduciaries, it might be, I mean, I'm assuming we're fiduciaries, that it would make sense to have ourselves as protected as possible by policies that show that there is the type of checks and balances that all organizations seem to adhere to. And I guess one other question, since this one came up, I'm assuming we have a directors and officers umbrella policy, or we just covered under the town.
Can you explain a little bit more about that? What you mean by umbrella policy?
A directors and officers policy. Essentially, it's an insurance policy for boards that protects them in the event, let's say, hypothetically, there was an embezzlement, that we would all be protected. The insurance company would pay off whatever it is, or God forbid, if somebody got hurt at the library, they decide they're going to bring a suit not only against the town, but also all of us as trustees for whatever negligence is viewed. So you have a D&O policy, and we may be covered under the town. I don't know.
That did come up at some point in recent years. Trying to remember what the reason was, but it was correct that the board would be covered under the town. I'll look back and find that information. If no one remembers, it must have been more than 6 years ago.
Well,
Again, it might be interesting at some point to find out if there's a D&O policy. All organizations have them.
and Peter, so DNO, I mean, I know in the, the medical field.
Directors and officers.
D and O, okay, not D.
D&O. I'm sorry.
And I know what Peter's talking about, and it's definitely something that other boards that I've served have had. So it's a good discussion topic question. Definitely something we should look into.
Okay, sure. Great idea. Thank you, Peter.
Creating problems.
Moved around on a few different topics within the treasurer's report. We've got a few things to work on for next meeting. Anything else on treasurer's report before we move on to fundraising? Okay, Peter, we're going to stay with you for fundraising update.
Okay. Actually, neither Jan or I got together because we decided we would wait for Scott to come on board. And what I'd like to do now that he's here is set up a meeting for us to talk more about what could we potentially do with respect to bringing in outside money. However, during the interim period, you may have seen that there was an RFP, or a quote, request for proposal for funds from the state to set up exhibits within the library system. And I read the RFP through. I thought it was quite interesting. There was quite a bit of money available through the state, if I recall correctly, is anywhere from $2 to $3 million. Not that we would get a grant for $2 to $3 million, but I think it was Danielle from the Friends sent a note out questioning if we should apply for such a thing, and that there may be some questions with respect to our charter. Now the timing was off as far as, we are doing with this interim. Jan is so busy and Scott wasn't here yet. So I really didn't pursue it because I can't sit down and write a grant proposal without some knowledge of what the issues are. But I think before we start going down this path, we're going to need some clarification about bringing in outside money, and are there any issues that we need to know about beforehand? In addition, I think it's critical that I and Scott, or me and Jan, I don't care who it is, meets with Danielle or whoever else from the Friends, so that we would have a coordinated approach to trying to raise money that's external to the town. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, and if we're not working synergistically, it's not going to work. Fundraising is time consuming. It's it's complicated. It's frustrating. Our goal is to bring in some extra money. It's not going to happen overnight, but we need to do this in some sort of a coordinated approach, and can't immediately say if there's an RFP, well, we can't apply for that for the following reasons, because we're just going to spin our wheels. So that's where I'm coming from at this point. And as I said, now that Scott is here,
Some connection issues.
I think it's you.
did you lose me?
It's always me.
Did I go through that whole discourse for nothing?
Now we can hear you.
I could
Oh,
hear you.
Okay. Now that Scott is here, I'll call and we'll set up a meeting and start.
We're having some connection issues, so we'll just pause for a minute until everyone's back.
Oh, okay.
I thought you sounded great, Peter. It made a lot of sense.
Still connected.
Turn my Wi-Fi off.
All right, hold on. Can you all hear us out there?
Yeah. We hear
We're having
you.
some connection issues. We might be back now. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes.
could hear you the whole time, and Peter,
Yeah.
so, yeah, on our end.
In and out. A little bit.
Fine.
Okay, I think we're leveled out of the woods. Lori, can you hear us?
Yeah, it's a little foggy, but most of the time I can hear pretty clearly.
Christina, Jill, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, all right, we're back. So Peter, if you might want to rewind like 30 seconds there.
Where did you lose me, David?
Well, we know that the process is can be very complicated, but what I really got out of it is a coordinated effort with the Friends, and now with Scott, it makes a lot of sense.
So I guess to rewind 15 seconds, I will call Scott. We'll set up some time, and I'll come over to the library and we'll sit down and we'll start to talk about this. I do think that we will need to get a subscription to the Foundation Center. I don't know if there's budget for that. It costs about $1,400 a year. This is the repository of all of the family foundations throughout the entire United States. Their criteria, you break it down in terms, you select and sort in terms of the area. So I I actually had access to the Foundation Center a couple of weeks ago. I decided to just take a quick look to see what kind of funding is out there for public libraries from outside foundations. There's quite a few foundations, family foundations, that are interested in funding library programs. So I think it could be worthwhile for us over time. So that'll be part of the discussion on the agenda.
That's terrific, Peter. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to that, and it sounds like there are just a lot to explore, a lot of opportunity, a coordinated approach methodically over time, slowly, would be a great start. Thank you very much. Anything else on fundraising? Any questions of Peter? Okay, we're going to move now into, well, I'm sorry, the Friends of the Library. I don't see anyone from the Friends on this call. Jane, do you have any updates from them? I know we,
Well, Nancy attended their last
oh,
meeting.
okay. Nancy, was there anything that you wanted to share
Yeah.
about the
It-
Friends?
it's a
Not
long time ago,
to
right?
put you on the spot.
It seems that their schedule,
They
their
met
meeting
in
is
person.
tomorrow, like it's,
Yeah,
Oh, it is, okay.
the last meeting was a long, long time ago.
sorry, I didn't bring my notes because I thought.
No problem.
They met in person, so
Yeah.
that was good.
Great.
They did talk a little bit about Peter and the fundraising, but didn't really get into it. Just
Okay.
mentioned that, with the fundraising, but nothing. And then that Scott was coming and that Ann was the.
Okay.
So Scott and I will be attending the meeting tomorrow night, right? And they're having their big book sale is coming up on this weekend. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in this room, they're gonna have all their wares, which this is a big event for them. They haven't been able to sell their books really that much since COVID, so they're excited about that. And also, this past Saturday, they had their Soundwaves concert, which they've normally done twice a year. The Lionsgate Trio is a beautiful group. I don't know if any of you have ever attended, but it's really just was a magnificent concert. They're world-renowned musicians. And we had about 36 people for that, which is a low number for that, but considering the situation, I thought it was a good number because the room wasn't overly crowded. So that was a big success.
They did talk about the food truck festival too.
Great.
About how that, and also the art gallery. I guess some members of the art gallery, the committee.
Okay. Yeah.
The art committee did meet in the library last Thursday, I think it was. So I look forward to hearing what they're going to say.
And is there a meeting here in the Rotary Room or are they doing it somewhere else?
Yeah.
They are, okay.
7:00.
All right, well, that's great. That's some good information and update from the Friends, and we'll continue to invite Leanne and others to join this meeting. But thank you for that update. We've now reached pretty much the end of our core agenda. We do have a few items under new business. So why don't we go through each one of those, and we'll also open it up for any other open topics. The first item for new business is the video policy. Scott and I had a chance to talk about this when we met. So Scott's going to cover and introduce this topic. Very interesting.
So there's been a significant uptick in First Amendment auditors coming to libraries. And there's been a lot of activity. Not everything from Long Island to Connecticut is positive. So there's been a lot of Long Island auditors coming to Connecticut. Recently, there was a case where it started in Bradley Airport, but came to the police station. Can't remember what town off the top of my head, but it's out there. It's happening, and it often happens in libraries because we're a government institution that's open to the public. For those of you who don't know, these are individuals who videotape the business of a library, often being disruptive and sometimes antagonistic. The library community has concerns about such actions. Many, including myself, feel that one's activity in a library should not be videotaped. That it's a part of their privilege of using the library without having their privacy violated. So I will be sending around a couple articles to the board, and I will be suggesting a change to the behavior policy. There's nothing right now in the behavior policy that addresses videotaping. While individuals, the kids should be able to do their TikTok videos in the study rooms, or someone should be able to film their child pulling a book for the first time. All of those are things that I think we're comfortable with, but the idea of someone standing at the circulation desk and videotaping people borrowing material, I think that's a complete violation of those individuals' privacy in using the library. So I'll be using some supporting documentation and also some suggestion on changing the language of the policy.
Scott, to help everyone understand a little bit about these First Amendment folks, what are some of the topics that you have seen them talking about in places like the library? But what are they trying to get at?
They videotape on, they're saying that they're observing government employees at work. And so they videotape it, and then their big issue is when they're told to stop videotaping, they then press it because they say they have a right to do it because of they're in a public space. So it's really a misunderstanding of what public space is. And the case law, the library is a limited or non-public forum. So public libraries in the case law are considered a limited forum and can restrict activity in its space. That's why we have a behavior policy. So there's just some real questions. I've only received one incident report the entire 2.25 weeks I've been here, which I yelled to Jen, is this all I'm getting? So I'm very used to people challenging the concept of a public space and what a public library is in terms of the public space. We are allowed to have a behavior policy. We are allowed to ask individuals to leave if they don't follow that policy. And we are allowed to restrict some behavior and some things that go on, like food or, loud headphones. So again, I'm a person who believes that we should always look at policy ahead of time and get it ready and prepare it for possibilities. And when you start seeing things pop up in the community around you, you need to address it. So it's really a misunderstanding of what a public library is, that it's not 100% a public space, that it's a limited public space, and we can allow what behaviors are allowed in the library. It does get squishy around videotaping and photos because they are allowed to do that. And it really comes down to what most libraries have found is stopping. I wouldn't want someone to videotape my kids going to story time. I wouldn't want my kids to videotape my kids in a program. I wouldn't want somebody to be able to figure out when I was in a building, say that I was looking for a new job, ran to the library to print out a resume. I wouldn't want someone to see that I was Scott in the library at 10:30 in the morning, printing out stuff.
Yeah.
So these are all things that I just think we need to protect our users and our patrons and the privacy they have to get information and use the resources that we have.
I was thinking of this today when I was looking at the agenda, that there is a policy on our website. It's very short though, and it's is it called the photo policy?
And that's an inward facing policy. So that talks about what we have the right to do as the organization to promote our programs.
Right.
But that doesn't really address the idea of being in the space and what you can and can't take photos of as a member.
Okay, got it.
Because patrons are basically giving permission, right, with that one, Scott, to say that if we're doing something in the building that we're allowed to utilize whatever photography or videography we do in that space. That's a different thing.
Different than a patron coming in and videotaping a story time, trying to figure out a story time.
Yeah, not cool.
Nightmare scenarios that the library could get. These are the things I think of in the middle of the night. A ton of nightmare scenarios that could come from us not addressing this.
Right. That's very smart to bring this topic up.
David, given the environment out there that we're dealing with today, given the incidents that have been taking place at school boards with respect to books that people want to read, I think that we're dealing with I think we're dealing with a very difficult and sensitive issue. And I'm wondering, as we start to look at this policy and the procedures to implement it, if we do not need to bring in town council into the discussion as we formulate this whole process, because frankly, I do think it's a breach of confidentiality for anybody to come in and start to film or video people who are just going about their daily business. And I could just envision a group who come along who say they don't like the book Beautiful and start to photograph somebody reading the book Beautiful or whatever book it may be. And that this issue is bubbling up. I think we do have an opportunity right now to be as safe rather than be sorry over an issue that might blow up. And the next thing we know, got picket lines and everything else around our library system. Plus, I don't know how, if I was sitting in the library and somebody came along with a video camera and started to video me, I would be complaining immediately to this board or to the town or to the press that my privacy is being invaded.
Yeah, and Peter, in an example like that, what would be the protocol for the staff, and how would they handle that, and what is the process for something like that? So
that's why it's not just the policy, it's what's the procedures that we would follow, and what can we do and can't we do, and how do we protect the staff as well? Because in this day and age where people overreact to mask wearing, it's a different world we're living in.
correct. So Scott, is part of this topic like a next step to provide a draft to the board? Okay.
And I mean, I don't know how policy change has been handled in the past, but I would always suggest any policy change be run through council to make sure. I mean, when we do the purchasing policy, I don't know the Connecticut purchasing laws. I know the New York purchasing. So it would be wise for us to at least run it past council to know that everything that we are doing is in line with what the state purchasing laws are. So that's something that we probably want to have a conversation with the town to find out how that process goes.
Scott, are there other larger library systems that are currently dealing with this problem?
Peter, I just shared an article. This has been big for the last couple years in public libraries. Thank goodness right now, I guess working at a private university, we haven't been dealing with this aspect. I'm knocking on wood as we talk, but I just shared an American Libraries magazine, which you might be sharing, or Scott, I know you said, but it talks about Silas Bronson Public Library in Waterbury. And as one of I'm sure there are others, I can't remember, but I know Waterbury had to deal with this at the local level. So I'm not sure who can even see the chat, but yeah, this is big and
well, no need to reinvent wheels if we can take a look at other
yes.
models and
Oh
get
yeah,
what they're doing.
There's plenty out there.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's a blog post that I'm going to share with the board, which kind of talks about the whole process and the suggested language. And they suggest not using the language a lot of other libraries use in their policies, which is interesting to see. I know Danbury ran into some issues with the same exact problem as well, I think a year ago. So, and when I write policy, I don't write it fresh off my mind. It's usually looking at 4 different libraries and then picking the one I like the most and then conforming the language.
Yeah.
We already have. which is normal in libraries, which is like, that's the standard in the library world.
Best practices, that's what we call it.
In the business world too. For introducing these topics, very important. We look forward to additional findings on this and working through this as a board. Anything else on video policy before we move to the next topic?
No, but thank you, Scott, for being proactive and bringing this up.
Scott, we're going to stay with you for the next topic. Something you just want to announce maybe a little bit about your open office hours starting in January.
So in January, I'm going to do something that I did at another organization, because in COVID, it's very hard to get to know the community. Everybody's behind a mask, 6 feet away, already burning through my money, getting food everywhere, which has not been hard. So what I'm going to be starting in January is open office hours. So probably once a week, I will be either setting up in a study room or at the main library, or a study room at Woods or somewhere in Woods. And we'll just say, you know, from 1 to 5 o'clock, the town librarian is here and available to meet with members of the public and staff. I'll have set it up so it will be both virtual and in person. So if an individual wants to meet with me virtually, which I'm totally open to, I'll be able to do it during those hours as well. And it's really with the idea of I'm going to be working, and I'll have stuff to do. I'll be writing reports and things of that nature and responding to emails. But members of the public are more than welcome to make an appointment with me, or just to show up and say, hey, I love the furniture at Woods. Orange is an awesome color. Or, you know, really the bee in the art room, the bee and Bruce is missing and you really need to get it replaced. It's things of that nature that I'm going to be.
That's a great idea. Thank you for offering this. It looks like it'd be a nice addition and a way for you to connect with the community. That's terrific. Would that be something that once you begin that is to start, you know, advertising it within the newsletter?
Yes.
And other things on the website?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Terrific. Any questions or anything else on Scott's idea around the open hours? Okay. We're going to stay with you, Scott, to talk about QuickBooks. Scott and I met again last week. And Scott has some great experience with QuickBooks. Before, Scott, you talk about your experience, I think that this could really help, going back to what we were talking about with space planning, Google Docs, the invoices, our drawdown. Scott had asked me, what does the board do to manage your budget? So this is everything outside of the operations budget. Really the money that we're using in terms of capital expenditure and investment, space planning. Scott's got some great experience, so I'll give the floor to you to talk a little bit about QuickBooks and what your idea is here.
And I know that QuickBooks, you're using QuickBooks to handle some of your funding. Jan and I had a conversation around that. My suggestion is going to be for the next fiscal year, setting aside, yeah, I know there's the 2%, which we talked about that correctly. And then breaking that down by projects and actually using QuickBooks to manage how that money's spent. So that instead of using Excel spreadsheets, and then it's something that's accessible. Everyone, that's something Jan and I are going to have to work on, because I know there is some use there and may need additional services to do that. But I think we need to break out capital expense budgets just so that we know and we can use the encumbrance feature so that it's like, well, we ordered this, but we haven't received it. Just to kind of do a little bit of better budgeting around the board's money.
And like a checks and balances to, you know, create another level of, you know, checks and balances in terms of, you know, we've got this money that we've approved as a board. When did we approve it? And has the invoice come in? And where is it? And have we paid for all that? It will be, I think, a much better system and process and platform for us to use. I've never used QuickBooks before, but hearing your experience, and knowing that it's fairly ubiquitous with organizations, that it could really, you know, make a big difference.
So, I mean, when we start our next fiscal year, this is where we'll bring this concept in, go.
Yeah, makes sense.
And Andrew, you know what might be a good thing for us to do sort of as year end for next month is, you know, maybe in preparation for QuickBooks, but really just to get a sense for year end of, hey, this is the money again that we had approved, what we drew down, what we've spent against in the invoice, we would get sort of a year-end report.
Yeah.
I know it's been sort of rolling each sort of like month. It'd be good to get a good view of that.
Yeah, that was the thing that was what Chris and I were talking about earlier. today,
Okay,
actually.
good.
So I think that'll be all that put together, be great.
Perfect. Yeah, it makes sense to start at the beginning of the fiscal. All right, anything else on QuickBooks? The last topic that I have at least written on the agenda, we'll open up for open items, is website. So I know that when we first started talking about the strategic plan, when we actually met about a year ago, kind of in the middle of the pandemic, we had talked about what can we do in terms of developing our strategic plan? What are the ideas? So we did meet here and whiteboarded a number of things. We all came with ideas of things that we'd like to do in terms of spending money from the endowment to make some improvements in the library. A number of the ideas helped us really put the strategic plan at the top. One of the ones that I have on the list was we need a new website, and that's under the category of marketing. Well, we agreed, great idea, but it's too soon. Let's work on the strategic plan. And then in the middle of that, we had the previous director resign. So then we went through a new search. So we knew that we had to go through a few things before we would get to some of the tactical items. Now that we have a strategic plan in place and we now have a new director, I want to reintroduce the topic of website. Now, our current website is great. It could be more modern and it can be, I think, better. It's got great content, it's got great functionality, but it's dated. And I'd like for us to start developing either a committee on website. It's going to take some time. It's going to take, planning, maybe an analysis of what it currently is, what we'd like it to be, how many people will be involved from the board, from the staff, from the town, and then over time that we could look at putting a facelift on our website. I think it would go a long way because we've talked a lot about it and it's in our strategic plan. The library as a brand, and I'm talking as a marketer, I love brands, that's the world I live in my day job, is our brand is such a big part of the connection to the community. And for all brands and all the screens we look at, there's lots of social media, a website is that core brand. And there's so many offshoots. There's social media, there's email, there are programs, there's lots of things from the website. And I think that a number of you have looked at other websites in other towns. There's some really cool things that are out there. And I think that we could, as we've gone through space planning and done some facelifts, now let's look at giving a facelift to our website. So no formal recommendation in terms of let's start this now, but I want to reopen this topic and wanted to get everyone's thoughts on timing, importance, priority. We have a lot going on, but I don't want to lose sight that we have to sequentially do one thing at a time. Because if we do that, then we'll never be able to maybe move some other things along. So any thoughts on the website and this topic?
So today I had a really good conversation with Mary May,
Got it?
who's our web librarian.
Yep.
Very excited at the concept and the idea of us doing this. The two things that we discussed at length was the back end, which is a WordPress back end, is pretty solid in what most libraries use. So we're not looking at a complete overhaul because we probably still want to use that system.
Yeah, WordPress is great.
We had a quick discussion about Drupal and the possibility of using a Drupal back end, because that's what our calendars run off of. But just there's excitement there, but there's also a reminder that we help maintain the town website. And they're doing a whole overhaul. So the concern is that we don't time it so they happen simultaneously, or else we'll probably going to be stretched capacity a little.
I have a question. You said that we maintain the town website?
So part of Mary's job is to you want to speak to this a little bit more?
Well, she's not only the library webmaster. So, yeah. Well, it's to say.
Are they both on WordPress?
I didn't ask what the back end of the town library website
Okay.
is.
But there is a project going on to revamp the town website.
She is very excited. That's really a facelift component of it. I think we're all in agreement.
Jill's having problems.
Oh, hearing me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now?
No, your mic is showing that you're muted, Scott.
Yeah, because I'm on the screen too, because I want you to see my
Okay,
facial.
well, we have been having a hard time hearing you, to be honest.
Owl does not like my voice.
I think it's great.
I don't think the owl likes masks.
Yeah, I don't think they all like, so, my input is only that I think it's a facelift. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a back end, which is a considerably, not considerably less work, but less intensive. And I just want to keep in mind that with the town redoing their website, both, we don't want to stretch our staff thin, but also we don't want to stretch the public thin. If people are already struggling with a new website to learn a new website for what getting the number to buildings and codes. We just have to keep in mind that when we do this, we also don't want to make especially a significant portion of our patrons are at a certain digital literacy level, or any change to a website, or like moving the hours from the left corner to the right corner. So we just, we want to take that into consideration when we're doing this design, and we want to take into consideration everything that's going on in the town.
Yeah.
So that, I have a bank that they just switched their app, and I know 2 people who left the bank because they hate the app. So I would hate to see that happen with the
Right.
library and some
Yeah.
things going. And I feel that the library website is in this case, it's the 3rd branch.
Yeah.
So I think it's really
Good
important
point.
that we do this. I love this idea, like I said to you Friday. And it's just, it's great to hear that we're gonna do a committee, with a lot of thought into it. Because this is a change that will freak some people out.
Okay. Any other thoughts? It's great input. I think that's a lot to, really keep in mind as we, begin this process or when we start to learn more about it.
I'm in agreement with both of you guys, Scott and David. David knows how I feel about it. He and I are the marketing people that are always pushing for branding the library. And I think that was part of our love of you, Scott, as an applicant, with your outstanding personality and your understanding of being in the community and kind of talking up the library as such a community asset. I do agree with you. I think member experience or user experience is super duper important. And I agree with you on that front. It's just, I have found personally over the last few years that the site is clunky. And I think there is a lot of opportunity, whether it's having a new skin on it, right? That maybe kind of matches in with what the town website, because the town website's really bad, let's be honest. But maybe there's an opportunity for that connection. And like you said, I know that we had talked before about, I'm sorry, I don't remember their name, but who actually does all of the web work for the library and for the town in addition to their day-to-day work. I know that spreading resources kind of thin as well, so we wouldn't want to, put any too much pressure on it. But I think if we come from a planned approach, a phased approach maybe, and be able to develop some support for you and for whoever it is that's going to be working on it, I think there's a way for us to get there without making it a completely like, hey, brand new, to drive people away. Because I use it a lot, and I think it could use a spiffing.
Can I ask a question too? I'm just going to follow up. It's Christina. In looking at the strategic plan, it does say one of the, our new strategic plan, it talks about creating and sustaining a marketing plan, which I think of the website as a critical component of the marketing plan. But I think I'm not sure where that work is. And we know that, this strategic plan just launched in August. And then we were searching for a new director, and you just started a couple weeks ago, and is that, I would think that's probably Is that where we want to start? About what does that mean? And is this part of that? So,
Goal 2 of the strategic plan is to expand digital capability and presence. So I think this really speaks to something that we should be doing. I mean, if that's our primary gateway to our digital presence, then we need to spiffy it up a little bit.
right. I guess I'm just talking about when we're implementing a strategic plan, as you know, what do we do first? Like what's an implementation plan? We can't do it all. So if it's the website, I agree. I mean, that is really where some people may not, I know in our graduate students may never enter our door. So if that's the priority, but when you're talking about, so is it what do we want to focus, the library, is it the marketing plan or is it the website? And how do we implement the strategic plan? Agree. I think it does need a facelift. I agree with you. It seems a bit it seems dated, but is that the first step we do or is it, yeah.
How I usually,
Organizations, I was going to say organizations today revamp their websites the same way that you change the furniture in your offices. The one thing is that you need to bring in the outside webmaster or expert who works with the staff and the board, if necessary, to help design it, make it more interactive, whatever the issues are. But I think it actually becomes the center of a marketing plan for us today, because people are so accustomed to immediately going to the web, and it's so interactive on so many different levels that I think it becomes the centerpiece of our marketing campaign. And what's to stop us from starting to look around for a webmaster who would be able to assist us? Because you don't want me to do it.
so
I have a hard enough time finding out how to use the computer.
in a strategic plan, you measure it's how I usually measure things are, is this a goal that's in planning? Is it an implementation? Is there an output or an outcome to it? So I love the idea of we're in the planning stage right now, and then the implementation stage would be everything that was talked about with having, a focus group of the staff, having a focus group of the public.
Yeah, I know.
All of those things. And then you can do heat maps on websites. So we can see what's being clicked, we can run through and do a data analysis of what are most people coming to our website for. It's probably our hours and our phone number. And then probably secondary is probably getting to the online catalog or getting to the programming catalog. So there's a really great way to do this, but it's strategic. We have a strategic plan. We strategically manage from there. So right now, I would say we're in the planning phase for this part of this, this kind of goal that we've looked towards in the strategic plan.
And Christina, going back to what you're saying about the marketing plan, you're absolutely right. There does need to be that. And, as part of a marketing plan, there are a lot of components. Could be brand, PR, communications, website, social media. There are so many. And, being able to form and create, a whole new, we're not looking to do a whole new brand campaign and this huge marketing plan. I think being able to pick like one or two things as a board that we see as it's a strategic priority. We've done a strategic plan. We've, worked on the endowment. We've worked on a new director. We've worked on furniture. The website might be a nice next extension. And now knowing that Mary and the town are looking at revamping the town's website, the timing could be well to be part of that process. But then as part of the strategic plan with digital resources, that also connects.
Yeah.
So as a next step, it would be nice to, I'd like to learn about maybe some of the next discussions, Scott, with Mary and any additional meeting. And then, maybe we could share findings. It's going to take some time. I can imagine this is probably a 6-month project with the town or so. Redoing websites takes a while. And a lot of organizations, they are constantly looking to give new updates to the website. I think the last time this was done, Jen, when was it? Like
I think it's about 8 years
eight,
ago.
yeah, 7 or 8? Okay.
We do have our strategic plan, have a working document that does prioritize things, but of course, we haven't gotten to that with Scott yet. And I think when I was thinking, when you were talking that, along with that prioritize, that column of prioritization to add, these implementation status and planning, so we know what stage things are at. So we'll take a look at that.
Right, a detailed update against the plan. Okay. Well, all good discussion, sort of the beginning, talking more about the website, more discussion to follow, additional meetings. That's all I wanted to say about the website. Any other new business, any other topics?
I just want to thank everybody because I ran into an old friend today, and he's like, "How's it going?" And I said, "I am super excited, super happy." The lawyer for my prior library called me this weekend to see how I was doing, and he sounded disappointed, and he just said, "I've not heard you this upbeat in 8-9 years."
All right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you. I want to thank Nancy and Jan and everybody else on the staff and Ann, who I already met. Just made this a really great experience, and it's nice. It's just really nice. That's all.
Terrific. Congratulations and welcome again, Scott. Great to work with you. All right.
I had a couple of things, David, I wanted to ask real quick. Sorry to keep everybody on the call. First thing was, I was in over the weekend and doing my usual thing. And I started talking with a patron that was there, that was over by the new nonfiction area, specifically in like the gardening, art, sports, that area. And she asked me, she said, "These bookshelves look thin. Has there been a culling of the collection or something going on?" And then we started talking about supply chain issues. And I just had a quick question for you. I actually pinged Christina a little bit earlier to see if she'd seen anything happening with the university. Have you heard of anything happening with delays in printing and getting physical items for you guys?
Everything. You name it, everything. From printing to paper to books leaving warehouses to Baker and Taylor switching warehouses, which is the main distributor that we use. Every library is struggling with getting items, getting multiple items.
Yeah.
I believe that's gotten better, but it's still a giant. And then because of the supply chain issues, some books aren't getting released because the publisher's holding off. All of those things, and also most libraries, I don't know about, and I hopefully get corrected by someone, a lot of money was put into buying ebooks during the pandemic while things were shut down.
Right.
So some of those older, newer books, not as many were purchased. Is that how things were handled here?
Did we slow down our purchasing? Not
No.
really, but the, things are coming in later than they should be.
Yeah.
I mean, we always had things ahead of the publication date, and
Now.
that's not the case anymore at all.
Yeah. Interesting.
Down
We've been
there.
talking about it in school, in grad school a little bit this week, because in my management class, and I was just wondering if that's something we've seen. And it just coincidentally, this patron said to me, "Did you notice that the shelves look a little thin over here? Are people coming and taking lots of books out?" I said, "Well, you do have digital options as well." But I said, that's what I said. I said, it maybe has something to do with, purchasing of ebooks because of COVID and wanting to make sure we had enough available for people if they didn't want to come into the library, and supply chain. I just, interesting.
Supply chain messed everything up and made things more expensive, as we know, with all the reports of inflation, but it's definitely impacted the book publishing industry and libraries.
That's a bummer. Sorry to hear that.
Thank you, Jill. Was there anything-
I just wanted to talk about, David, that note you had sent to everybody last month about changing the time of the meeting. Maybe we can chat about it really quick. I don't know if we need to vote on something like that, but I just thought maybe we could talk about it.
My
A second.
idea was just to change it up a little bit. I know that the board has been meeting, traditionally at 7:00. As an option, maybe to offer flexibility that moves from a working day right into the board, so it can be finished in time for people to make it home for dinner. So Jill, I know that you have school that conflicts with it, but in December you might open up and have flexibility.
Yeah, I do, but I'm also working full time, and for
Yeah.
me, to be able to get out early enough, 5:00 would not work for me. I could
That
maybe
would-
do
that
something
would
more
be-
like 6.
That would be very challenging. I mean, I could maybe do it. I mean, I had a meeting up to usually my hours are not leaving at 5:00 or 4:30. I mean,
By a 6:00 start in December.
Jill, would you want to go later, start a later time?
prefer to
Not
keep
necessarily.
7:00.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing what, 7:00 now, right? You're talking about something like 8? I mean, I also don't want to have people out late either. If they have other things going on, it's just, right
And
now
if you
for me, like David knows from class, I will not be taking a one-day course anymore, thank God. But, yeah, no, I would like to stick with what we have, but if it's, if we could, I mean, I could do 6 or maybe 6:30, so it's a little earlier, but 5 or 5:30 for me is gonna be really tough. I'm sorry. Monday's my busiest day.
I'm gonna have to second that. Monday is really Monday. I don't know. Maybe I could do 6:30, but that's challenging. I would have loved to be in person, but today was not going to be the day that I could leave any earlier than so.
We've got a few weeks. Let's just try and, work on schedules and I'll work through email. But if we could just try it a little earlier, it was just an option to try and get it started earlier so people could get home early, because I know that Jan and Nancy and Scott are staying late here tonight. The hours of the library end at 5:00, so we're asking them to stay a little bit later. So that was part of it as well. I know we all have full-time jobs, so trying to accommodate, everyone's schedule is kind of hard. I know 7 is the sort of the set time. Suggesting it as a way maybe to mix it up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Voter-
I'm not sure if I can make the December meeting. If it's what were you thinking? But yeah, but we can talk about that offline via emails.
All right, are there any other topics of discussion? We've had a great meeting, covered a lot of ground. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Peter, would anyone like to second?
I'll second. Christina. Oh, sorry, Jill. I beat you.
Lori, we are adjourning at 8:40 p.m. Wonderful. Well, thank you all. Have a happy Thanksgiving next week.
Yep.
Enjoy time with your family and friends. We'll see you in December. We'll figure out the time. We'll go from there. Thank you all.
Okay, thanks all.
Hey.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night.
Good night.